Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another video. And today I want to talk to you about the fact that women have more power than you in the dating marketplace. Shock horror, right? You never heard that before, or you never experienced that before. Well, I'm afraid to say it's true. There is no getting around this fact. So what I'm going to do in this video is explore that a little bit, talk about why that's the case, and perhaps reinforce some ideas that you already have or introduce you to some new ways of looking at it. And then I'm going to tell you what you can do in order to not even things up, because that's the wrong way of looking at it, but what you can do in order to ensure that you retain your personal power and autonomy in the situation, okay, in the dating marketplace. Because I think what happens a lot when guys come to this space, they often have been disappointed in a romantic relationship. You know, they've split up with somebody, they've been dumped by somebody, maybe a girl's cheated on them or something like that, or they haven't even got to that stage yet, right? And they really, really like Sally, who works in the accounts department, or they like this girl in their class, or, you know, whoever it is, this girl that they see every morning at the subway station. And maybe they go and ask that woman out, and she just rejects them out of hand. And so these guys feel that with rejections piling up, a sense of bitterness and frustration, I guess, with the fact that the dating marketplace is weighted against them, okay? And so often what will happen is that guys become somewhat negative. And I was that way myself when I was a teenager, when I was in my early 20s. And so what I'm really reflecting back here is some of my own experiences with this stuff. But guys can sometimes feel that sense of frustration, but then that can lead towards hopelessness and ultimately depression, right? So it's not a good way to go, okay? And a lot of this is really about how you perceive the situation. And what I always say, right, is that with anything, with any dynamic, with any setup, okay, whether it be in terms of romantic relationships, whether it be in terms of politics, in terms of business, whatever it is, you need to first determine the reality of the situation, and then you have to work from there, okay? There's no point in getting caught up in fantasies about how things should be or how you'd like them to be or how they are somewhere else and why aren't they here and all that kind of stuff. You need to accept things as they are, and then you need to move forward on that basis. Now, women, young women in particular, have more power than you in the dating marketplace, okay? If you're a young guy, if you are between 20 to 20, 25, or even 18 to 20, 18 to 25, 18 to 30, then fundamentally, and I'm sorry to say this, you have less power in the dating marketplace than the women around you, women of the same age as you, women who are your peers, the women that maybe you work with, or the women that you went to school with or university with. Those women, by and large, have more power than you. Why is that? It's because women are fundamentally highly sought after by men. Demand and supply, very, very simple stuff. And a young woman who is attractive, or at least not physically unattractive, is deluged with opportunities for liaisons, for dates, for intrigues, for romance, for love, for trips to Dubai, all of this kind of stuff, all the time. Now, I should stress here, by the way, this is not all women. Of course, some women, for their own reasons, you know, sort of fall below the radar, and that's very sad in those instances. But by and large, on average, women are very highly sought after and young men aren't. And this is because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, men have to build their value. Men build their value over a period of time, okay? This is why older guys tend to get more recognition in the dating marketplace. They tend to have it a bit easier because they've built up some degree of value over time. And that means perhaps in their job, in their career, in terms of their confidence, their charisma, the way that they present themselves, the way they come across, all of those things. Guys build themselves up, okay? And that is a lifelong project. You know, that it never ends. We are always improving. We're always going on to the next stage, okay? Women, in contrast, and of course, women also build themselves up. Women also have careers and they work on self-improvement and all of those things too. But what men seek in them is their beauty and their youth. I'm not saying that's fair. I'm not saying that's how we'd like things to be, but that's kind of how it is. In terms of attraction, at least, men seek women who are physically attractive to them primarily. And then on top of that, you get the other things like personality and stuff like that. Of course, that helps. But the primary thing is that physical attraction, all right? So a young woman who is, say, 24 years old, who has a lit Instagram profile, who looks amazing in all of her photos, maybe who has a presence on some other social media platforms, etc., etc. She is going to be inundated with attention from guys all over the planet, okay? And it's very easy for you to be sitting there thinking, well, this is just completely unfair. And also I feel, as I say, helpless about this, because how can I ever hope to get any sort of traction? You know, I don't regard myself as being in that top tier of guys, because remember, there is a small tier of guys who are, they're never going to get the same amount of attention as the top tier girls, but they're certainly getting more attention than the average dude. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, I'm not even in that top tier of guys, you know, I have no hope. I may as well just sit here and cry myself to sleep every night. Then I understand where you're coming from. But there is a source of power that you can harness that will help you with this situation. And that is detachment, okay? So detachment is a technique, or an idea, I suppose, that has been developed by counselors, by psychologists, and it's talked about by a lady called Melody Beattie, who wrote this book, which is called The Language of Letting Go. She's written a number of books about codependence, and they're really good, so have a look at it. This is the one, I think, with daily meditation. So every day we have a different reading depending on the date. So she talks a lot in her work about detachment, and what detachment basically means is detaching yourself from a person, from a situation, from some sort of environment, perhaps, okay? So an obvious example of that is if you've got a girlfriend or you're in a relationship and you're not happy, then you can pull back. And it doesn't even necessarily mean to leave them. It just means that you slowly detach yourself from them. You know, you slowly pull away emotionally or whatever, because things are no longer serving you, right? You need to have that same notion of detachment in the dating marketplace, okay? And what I mean by that very simply is, don't get too hung up on an individual girl. Don't get too hung up on this one perfect, beautiful girl. Maybe she's in your class and you think, if only I could date her, if only we could go out together, if only we could be in love, then everything would be perfect because she's so amazing and she would fix me. And then, you know, you're kind of trying to befriend her, you're hanging out with her, and you think maybe you're getting some traction, and then you're not, and you're really disappointed, and you go in that emotional roller coaster of up and down. I've had that happen to me many, many times in my younger life. It's incredibly painful and it's incredibly destructive, okay? And I wish that when I was younger, somebody had taught me this idea about detachment, because ultimately what you need to do is to detach yourself from that person, okay? She's over there. Maybe she notices you, maybe she doesn't. Probably she doesn't, but, you know, whatever. You need to stop putting emphasis, mental and emotional emphasis on her, and you need to pull back, okay? You need to own your own power, right? And this is sounding esoteric, and it kind of is, but you have to pull back and own what is amazing about yourself, and recognize that while she might be great, she might be cool in her own way too. Whether you end up with her or not, that is not going to make you happy, and it's not going to make you whole, okay? You need to put the focus back on you and not allow your power to be taken away by people, or not taken away, but not allow your power to be expended on people who probably don't deserve it and who are certainly not paying you the requisite amount of attention back. Now, in the game space, guys will often talk about this idea of spinning plates. And what that basically means is dating concurrently. It means not dating. I mean, okay, if you get into a serious relationship down the line, that's a different matter. But in the interim period, or in the early stages, not being tied down to one solid monogamous partner. You know, you might be dating around, you might be seeing different girls, etc., etc. And the real reason why that is often talked about is because that is a way of ensuring that you remain detached, because ultimately, if you've got more than one iron in the fire, then that's going to take your focus off that one particular girl who you might get one-itis for, and that's going to screw you up mentally and emotionally, okay? It's a kind of a crude methodology, but it does work to a point. But in the end, and again, I'm sorry to sound esoteric here, but you need to be working on the inner stuff. You need to be working on your self-esteem and your regard for yourself. You need to get to the point where you regard yourself as being so amazing and fantastic, which you are, that really you are doing these other people a favor by even considering them, okay? You want to be in the position where you're thinking that this girl who you think is so amazing and so wonderful and has so much power in the dating marketplace, that she would actually be lucky if you approached her. She would actually be lucky to get to spend time with you. Now, if she doesn't want to do that, absolutely fine. That's down to her. That's her. She's an autonomous human being. She can make whatever decision she wants. But it shouldn't be something that negatively affects you, because, and again, I'm going to use a Rollo aphorism here, you should be your own mental point of origin, okay? And detachment, that is to say, having that ability to pull back, to unfocus emotionally, intellectually, cerebrally, whatever, and to put your attention on yourself and the things that you are doing and the things that make you feel good and the work that you want to do to create the kind of life that you want. You put your focus back onto those things, you detach from her, and that is reclaiming your power, okay? And ironically, in doing that, that's going to make you more attractive, because the guy who's self-contained, the guy who owns his own power, is just inherently more attractive than the needy dude who is pining after somebody the whole time. So if you are young and you are not yet in a position to be in a serious monogamous relationship, and I would say that goes for a lot of young men watching this, then sure, dating concurrently, spinning plates, it's a good idea. It's not a bad thing to do. And let's face it, that's kind of how the dating marketplace works these days. Anyway, women are doing this, guys are doing this. That's just how things are. You don't get too hung up on that one individual person. But even if you're not doing that, or you don't want to do that, try to practice this idea of detachment. Now, how you actually physically do it is, of course, a more complex thing, and we can do more content on this in the future if you're interested, so leave me a comment below. But Melody Beattie, in one of her books, basically says, so addresses this question: how do you do detachment? And she says you just have to do it, in the sense that you just have to do the actions that a more detached person would do. So if you're fixated, you have a one-itis for a particular girl in your vicinity, right? What would the person who's not who's not attached to her, what would the detached person do? Well, he'd probably think about her less. He'd probably walk past her place of work less. He would probably interact with her less. He would probably not try to seek out situations where she's likely to be there in the case that you might run into her. Okay, you've got to just do the actions that the detached person would do, and in time the mind and the feelings will follow. Okay, detachment ultimately is a decision. It's not an easy decision, but it is a decision. You could say to yourself, and I've also done this in my own life, in situations which have become toxic for me, I've said, right, I'm making a decision. I'm detaching myself from this person. I accept that it might be difficult. I accept that it may be in some ways unpleasant for me, but I'm going to do it. And then I make that decision, detach. And sometimes what that means is that the person that you've detached from will be attracted more to you and will come and seek you out. But you shouldn't do it for that reason. You should do it because you are your mental point of origin. You are the center of your world. And other people, while they can be a valuable and beautiful addition to your life, do not negatively or positively influence your own self-worth. Your self-worth is static and hopefully increasing because it comes from within. All right. Slightly esoteric today. I get it. I hope you see where I'm coming from. I think this idea about detachment is really, really key, particularly in a dating marketplace where women do have more power than you. Now, of course, what we haven't discussed, but we can discuss at another time, is the fact that things do start to level up somewhat as you get a bit older, as you get into your 30s and beyond, because you've acquired more value. But if you're a younger guy and you're feeling this dissatisfaction about the unfairness of the dating marketplace, then detachment and a focus on your personal worth is really the way to go. And also the realization that the world is a very, very big place. There are billions and billions of people out there. There are billions of women out there. There are billions of women who are potentially like you out there. And even if only a small fraction of them like you, that would still be more than you could ever hope to meet in your lifetime. So there's a very abundant field out there. Detach from people and situations that are causing you pain. Focus on yourself and you will prosper. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Please do subscribe to the channel, give me a like, drop a comment below, and also get on my free daily email list as well. I put out an email every day, Monday to Friday, absolutely free of charge. Little essay by me, little article about dating, about life in general, about self-improvement. The link for that is below. So do get on that free daily email list now. I'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.